Okay, so I just shot this photo uh, specifically with an improper white balance, just to show uh, how important it is to shoot in RAW. So just that, switching to tungsten, and boom, you've got instant just fine. The wonders of RAW. All right, so I'm gonna do my little workflow here on how I process. So first step I do is I mask. I hit sky. Once I hit the sky, I'm going to hit invert. So now I'm just going to be editing just foreground. This is a single shot. Bring the exposure up a little bit. Contrast down a hair. Highlights. We'll go down a little bit. Shadows up a little. Blacks down. Pretty happy with that. Alright. And we're going to change the tint just a little bit to make it look more night-like, as with a little bit of blue in there. Don't mind the red light of death. Somebody was shooting with me that night. All right, so now I've got my foreground done. I'm going to switch over and hit enter, lock that in. Now I'm going to do a second mask. Lightroom, by the way. All right, so now we've got the sky already. No, this is just a single shot, so there's going to be a lot of noise in the foreground. The best way to get rid of that, in my personal opinion, is to shoot the foreground during blue hour and then shoot the Milky Way once it is dark and in the sky and blend the two together. So, all right, so we're going to bring our exposure down to wherever you feel comfortable. But for me, out there it looks pretty good. Yeah, bring your contrast up a little bit, put highlights down, shadows down, whites up just a little, and then the blacks. Okay, so with the blacks, you bring it down just a little bit so you can start seeing right in this area. Kind of starts to show itself at a certain point. I like to go right when I can. It starts to look blackish right in here. And we are going to go to temperature. So I think a lot of people, when they first begin, like to go with blue skies for whatever reason. We all do it. I always find it humorous. I'm going to bring it into blue a little bit and then go into green on tint. And that just gives just a little more natural look as to what the sky would actually look like when I was shooting that night. I was in a Bortle 1 sky. Now, the big thing that is a really easy save, especially if you are in a little bit more light pollution, is to use the dehaze slider. So, a lot of times I see pictures like this and people don't know how to get rid of it. Dehazing works a lot. Never over dehaze. It looks horrible. Just a little. Brings out the details without starting to look fakey. And you can, if you like a softer Milky Way, you can slide your texture to the left. You can get a nice soft muted. If you like a heavier texture, obviously you slide the other way. I'm going to go just slightly softer for my personal. And then I'm going to bring the clarity up just a touch. And that right there, I am pretty happy with the base. So we are going to, I just hit enter again to close that out. And we're going to do one more mask. And Control plus this mask. Add. We're going to do color range. We are going to hit right there on. So now you can see all of the little nebulosities. So we're gonna go down to our temperature and our colors. We're gonna go tint. We're gonna break in that tint to the more magenta side. And then I'm gonna bring the temperature up a little bit more warm. As you can see, if you watch right where those nebula are, you can really start to see them pop. It's nice without getting too heavy-handed. And if you really want, you can bring up the saturation, really make them extra heavy. So now you see those nice little bits of nebula coming through. You can brighten them a little bit if you like. You'll notice that some of the core here is brightening. It's because there's a little bit of magenta in there. So that's just naturally going to happen. So you can bring a contrast in and out, find a spot you like. I'm bringing it down a little bit. Highlights, bring it up. Shadows. Pretty happy with where they are shot. This was exposed pretty well, so I'm pretty happy with that. The blacks. Bring those down or up just a little bit. No? All right, so I'm pretty happy with where we are with the base image here. Now, next part is bring this over, hit your file, edit in Photoshop. I'm going to pause this while it loads. All right, here we are. The reason this is off center. Full screen. Okay, so I don't do a lot in Photoshop with editing my Mikyway photos. Just a little bit of dodging and burning. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to our dodge, burn, right click, go to dodge. Right now it's a small brush. What I'm gonna start off with is too big, too small. There we go. Pretty good with that size. As far as hardness goes, I generally like to use around 24% for hardness. Um, you go too hard and you get really hard lines, and too soft and you don't get much of an effect. All right, so now I'm going to take and drag, left click, and drag across the Milky Way once only. You could go over here a little bit, but as you can see, there is some over brightening. So I'm just going to undo that last one. There we go. All right, now I'm going to go back up and change a brush size. So, yeah, it feels about right. So I'm going to do individual clicking on the spots I want to bring up brighter. There's no wrong or right. For me, I like them to pop out in certain areas. So I'll double click on some and then just one click on the others so you get a little bit of up, down, a little dimension into your Milky Way naturally. Okay, so you can really start seeing the details really popping. This particular photo I shot at 24 millimeters at f1.8 or f2. I don't like to shoot at the most open aperture. You end up starting to get rice-shaped stars, which is just not very attractive. Clicks. You could do this all night long if you really wanted to, but you kind of, as you can kind of see, get the general eyes idea. And as you can see, there are lots of little weird, little dark spots, dark nebula in there. Um, so this general area right here, I'm gonna butcher the name, RHO Apachui, I think, but we're gonna just do a light grazing over this. So you want to see it. It's a spot I think a lot of people ignore when they are editing. So, so I'm pretty happy with that. Just a couple little spots that could be undone. And then we'll darken some other areas. So we are going to go back to our Dodge Burn tool, right click, go to burn. All right, so now we have a little itty bitty brush. So I always start here first. Just right here, darken it just a little bit. Don't worry about what you're doing. Take your time, enjoy it. Everything you do can be undone. But just giving that little area, that little bit of pop right there really made all the difference to me personally. All right, so now, right now, our hardness on that is a little low because the brush size, I wanted it to be a little sharper. So I'm going to go back up to like, around 25%, close enough. Bring our brush a little. There you go. I like that. All right, so some individual clicks. So here I'm just going to kind of do just a quick glide through. That's a nice thing when you have your brush a lot softer. You can really get some nice looks without a lot of effort. If you had your brush set too hard, you'd be going back and forth and back and forth. But you can just kind of see some of the natural areas where the Milky Way darkens. And you could do this. I mean, it's starting to look a little over processed right here, but you get the gist of what I'm trying to do. So I am going to make this a little bit larger. And then my brush size down. There we go. So got a few spots where it's a little muddy looking, a little hot. Must have bumped my camera on this. Some funny looking stars. Anyways, it's a little muddy looking. You can see there's some spots that you can darken, just get rid of some of that overexposed, washed out look. Oops. One of the things I also like to do is when I'm zoomed in like that, make sure you go back, look, kind of check what you've done, where you've gone, to make sure you're happy. I even lean back from the screen, 2, 3 feet away so I can get an overall view, make sure it's not burnt out. So, but overall, I'm super happy with the way this has turned out. Um, Normally, what I do is, again, I would shoot this foreground first. If I can't do it during blue hour, I will change my settings and do anywhere up to a 3 or 4 minute foreground exposure um, at a really low ISO. That gets rid of a lot of the noise that you would be seeing. All that noise. It's horrible. Unavoidable because, especially in the Arizona desert where it's hot, sensor gets hot and that noise just gets ridiculous. So, but not my best shot in the world. I don't have pinpoint stars, but, when you're shooting with 10 other people and trying to teach them, you make little mistakes here and there. But anyways, I hope this video is helpful. Oh, actually, I have one other spot I can do. Right here, there's a little bit of haze on those mountains that I find super, super distracting. So we're going to zoom in. There we go. Yeah, kind of have that gray haze. I'm sure there's another way to do it. Um, I don't know how. I would love to know if there's a better way to do it. But for me, it's going to be the burn tool again. And I'm just going to drag over that area. Still using a soft brush. Starting to get some of that gross grayness out. If I was doing this for real, I would zoom in even farther and I would use a little bit sharper of a brush so I don't get this little bit of overlap. But as you can see, just doing that, you can get rid of that haziness, make it look a lot better. Anyways, that's the gist of my workflow on a single exposure. Anyways, otherwise you can do track photos or you can track and stack, which would bring out more and more and more detail, like some of those ones where the whole Milky Way core looks like fire, at least to me. Um, but for single exposure, I'm super happy with the amount of detail I could really pull out of this without a ton of work. That's it, and I hope you like. Thanks.